Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikiolu here in Lagos, and Lunchtime Politics begins right this minute. Well, less than 2 weeks to go, President Muhammadu Buhari is back to work as he presides over the Federal Executive Council meeting. It's expected to be the second to the last before he leaves office. And drama at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal as the Labour Party members clash over who will represent the party in court. Elected National Chairman Lamidi Akpakpa in confrontation with those loyal to Julius Abure. And the attack on the U.S. consulate staff in Anambra State raises fresh concerns about security in the southeast. The U.S. government says it is partnering with Nigerian security to unravel the attack. President Muhammadu Buhari is back to work after his 2-week trip to the United Kingdom. Well, it is the final day of his administration, and today is presiding over the Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House, a precursor to the forthcoming valedictory session for cabinet members next week. But today's meeting is expected to deliberate on about 60 memos, but this is actually the second of such meeting. That's the Federal Executive Council meeting this week, as the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had presided over one on Monday, where 37 private universities were approved, amongst other issues raised there. Well, in attendance, that's for today's meeting now, are the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Monguno, retired, the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Folashade Yemieson. The council chamber is full as I speak, as over 98% of the cabinet members are in attendance. And that was the mild drama which played out earlier today at the resumed hearing of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal sitting, just as the doors to the courtroom was opened for lawyers and others to access the court. The drama was between the two factions of the Labour Party on which group should be in court. Later on, the justices arrived to commence the day's proceedings and refused to acknowledge the representation of the party, aside Mr. Peter Obi, who is present in court at that time, I should say. The court refused to take an appearance for Labour Party, as the acting national chairman of the party, Lamidi Akpakpa, as well as the national women's leader of the party, Dudu Manugo, tried to make an appearance for Labour Party when the petition was called. But Justice Haruna Samani noted that if two persons are making an appearance for the party, they will not be put on record. In attendance at that time was also Mr. Julius Abure.
Okay.
And now to the court proceedings proper. Well, that happened earlier on before the court resumed. But at the resumed hearing, counsel to Labour Party, Mr. Levi Uzoku, informed the court that the scheduled meeting to agree on documents to be tendered for hearing hasn't yielded much result, as he says INEC has only made available 30% of the documents required from them. He adds that this is contrary to the commitment by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, that all documents required shall be made available. If that the party is yet to get documents with respect to Rivers State, where he said the resident electoral commissioner said that there are no forms EC8A available to be given, but is yet to put that in writing despite a request to do so. But counsel to INEC, Abubakar Mahmood, however, says he's taken aback by the allegations of a council Labour Party, as they did not show up for the meeting as agreed and walked out of the rescheduled meeting. Mr. Mahmood adds that the documents for Rivers and Sokoto states were indeed provided, but the Labour Party refused to pay the sum of 1.5 million naira for Sokoto State and Form EC8A for Rivers State have not been given to them. He adds that some documents were given to the party, but refused to collect it until it was complete. He assures the court that they were doing everything possible to assist the court in an open manner. The case has now been adjourned to Friday, May the 19th for continuation of pre-hearing. Afterwards, in an interview, the counsel of the Labour Party also wondered why INEC is taking sides as a government institution. Well, away from the tribunal, there was some more drama that actually played out, after the court rose. But let's bring you news from the camp of the President-elect Bola Tinubu, who is promising to hit the ground running, unify the country, and foster positive relations with the United States upon assumption of office on May the 29th. Well, he spoke during a telephone conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, initiated by the U.S. diplomat. In the telephone discussion, which was described as frank and friendly by his media aide, Tunde Rahman, the president-elect said his immediate priorities will be to deliver institutional reforms and development programs to deepen democratic institutions and bring help to poor and vulnerable Nigerians. He also expressed his determination to strengthen Nigeria's democracy and faithfully serve the people as their president. And during that talk, which lasted for about 20 minutes, the president-elect recalled being granted asylum by the U.S. when he was forced on exile during his struggle for the restoration of democracy in Nigeria. And for his part, Secretary Blinken assured the president-elect that Nigeria should expect a good and mutually beneficial relationship with the United States. And it's a meeting of old friends turned political foes, but it seems they may be back to being friends, as the president-elect Bola Tinubu and the presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, in the 2023 election, Robbie Kwankwaso, are said to have met in Paris, France. The meeting, which took place in the French capital, is said to have been brokered by Kwankwaso's ally, Abdulmumin Jibrin, who was formerly in Tinubu's camp and has been seen of recent at his residence. According to a source which spoke to Channels Television, it says that indeed there was a meeting between both of them. And according to the source, both men are still in Paris as at the last time and expected to hold more talks. When an authoritative source within the Tinubu camp was contacted about the meeting, he said that it is true, it was in France and they met as reported. It also lends credence to the fact that Tinubu is alive and well, the source says. Yet another source who was at the meeting said it was expected that the All Progressives Congress would be happy to welcome Kwankwaso back to the party, especially as he and Tinubu have always been friends. So let's get a sense of some of his major issues playing out. The drama in court that concerns the Labour Party. The recent meeting between the president-elect and Senator Robbie Kwankwaso. Remember that the APC and the NNPP were major contenders in that election. But it looks like, well, they're coming together now. So let's get some more insight into this. We're joined on the program by Mr. Jide Ojo, who's a policy analyst as well as a political analyst. He joins us virtually from Lagos. Good afternoon, Mr. Ojo, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon, Kyle. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
Well, lots of things really to talk about, but let's begin with what played out in court earlier today. I mean, the drama had been happening outside of the courts, but was taken into the arena of the courts today. The drama within the Labour Party. You saw the Lamidi Akpakpa faction, the Julius Abure faction, of people at least that are loyal to him, and that drama playing out. Is this something you saw coming? I wonder if there's maybe a backstory to this that you might want to shed light on.
Yes, definitely, Kyle. There is a backstory to that. Remember last week, Abuja High Court actually upheld the the Apapa faction by assuming jurisdiction and by saying that Julius Abure stands suspended until the merit of the case before the court is dispensed with. And the factions loyal to Julius Abure have said that they have filed an appeal, but appeal does not amount to stay of execution. So you recall that after that last week victory by the Apapa faction, Lamidi Apapa actually addressed the press and said that the lawyers hired by the Labour Party should come and brief him within 48 hours about the state of the case they have at the tribunal. Of course, they responded that they were not hired by him and that they were not going to obey him. So what's happening is it's not unusual. Most of the political parties we have in Nigeria have internal wranglings. You can see that even APC itself is facing the battle of its intervention in meddling with who becomes the next set of leaders of the National Assembly. The PDP, of course, has had its chairman suspended over issues within this Benue State ward, and all of that. So if you count the out of the 18 political parties registered by INEC that currently exist in Nigeria, I'm not sure there is up to 5 that doesn't have one internal wranglings or the other.
And I think it speaks to, the political culture, within those parties. I mean, these are parties within a democracy, and they always say that let there be some sort of internal democracy, let them exhaust, the internal conflict resolution mechanism. So, I mean, when you say that majority of the political parties have some internal issues, is that, I don't know, is that something we should be proud of? Is there a solution to that?
Well, there is a solution, but don't forget that out of every 12, there must be a Judas. And there is no Garden of Eden that does not have a serpent. You cannot have millions of people within a political setup and you think there will be no disagreement or there will be no conflict. You alluded to the issue of conflict management mechanism within the party. Yes, there are those mechanisms, but do the members, do they subject themselves to such mechanism? Rather, many of them resort to court. And people must understand, as against what Julius Abure faction is trying to make the public to believe, Labour Party has always been in perpetual crisis. I've worked with political party in the last 24 years, and I can tell you for free, even the late A.A. Salam, who was the former national chairman of Labour Party, faced a lot of opposition within the party. There were factions and all sorts of. And ahead of the 2023 election, before Peter Obi joined the Labour Party in May 2022, you know that somebody else alluded that he had already been the nominee or the presidential nominee of the party and all of that. So it's not like this crisis just started today. Look at APGA, All Progressive Grand Alliance. It's still emerging leadership tussle. I've cited the example of APC. I've cited the example of PDP. Remember the ADC. ADC even suspended its presidential candidate. And the presidential candidate went to court and got the chairman of the party removed by the court process. So that was even in the lead up to the 2023 election. So you can actually count the number of parties that does not have one internal wranglings or the other. But you see, in a democracy, there are bound to be conflict. In an atmosphere of having thousands or millions of people, for instance, APC claimed to have over 40 million members across the world, Nigeria and in diaspora. How can you have that kind of huge number and you think that everything will be smooth sailing, there will be no crisis?
Well, we didn't see the party get 40 million votes, Mr. Ojo. Ideally, you would expect the party to get 40 million votes at least, but please go on that.
I was looking forward to that, but unfortunately, that's why they claim that they have 40 million members, according to Akpan Udoe when he was the national secretary of the party. We didn't see that reflect during the presidential election.
All right, so let's talk about, now we're talking about the APC. The president-elect had that meeting with Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, and for a lot of people, they're wondering, wait a minute, what is going on here? And I wonder for you, does this now lend credence to that talk about, okay, maybe Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso's running in the first place? It was meant to achieve an aim, maybe break the votes of the PDP candidate, and then eventually, you know how politics work, they will come eventually and become friends. Does this lend credence to that theory, which a lot of people believed strongly at that time?
Kayode, you are playing the conspiracy theory there. But you see, really speaking, as a student of politics, I will not put anything beyond our political class. They devise different means. There are different intrigues that play out. You know, there is also a school of thought that says Peter Obi could actually have been sponsored partly to also achieve similar aim, as you have alluded with Kwankwaso, that, I mean, they alluded to Governor Soludo correspondence that if he were to be, I think it's tweet, that if he were to be Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, he will even fund Peter Obi as campaign, because he knows that every vote for Peter Obi is a vote against PDP and is going to be counting in favor of APC. And that's actually what it panned out. I wrote in my column in the Punch newspaper after the election that, Peter Obi, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, the G5 governors, are all destiny helpers of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
Right.
And I did break it down that if not for these people, if not for the factionalization of PDP ahead of the election, recall that out of the 4 frontline candidates, 3 of them belong to PDP. Peter Obi left PDP to join Labour Party.
Right.
Kwankwaso left PDP to join NNPP. And the G5 governors, 5 governors saying that they were not going to campaign for their presidential candidate out of 14 states that PDP was controlling. So these are destiny helpers for Asiwaju. So it may well be playing out that what we are seeing in France, the movie going on in France, is actually part of the large grand plan to make APC to win the presidential election.
Interesting place to leave it there. My job is just to ask the questions and get Nigerians to, listen to different sides. Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo, for your time on the program tonight. And I wish you a great one in your engagements later today.
I'm very grateful. Thanks for the opportunity to enlighten Nigerians. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Well, welcome back to the program. The United States government has confirmed that incident, the killing of 2 staff of the U.S. consulate and 2 police officers in Ogbaru, Osomala Road in Anambra State following an attack on a convoy of the staff of a consulate. In a statement by the spokesman of a U.S. mission in Nigeria, the embassy explains that the security of its personnel is always paramount and that the mission takes extensive precautions when organizing trips to the field. The police in the state have also confirmed and clarified that no U.S. citizen was killed in the incident. Well, a joint security forces of Anambra State Police Command says it is embarking on a rescue operation in the local government, or it was embarking on a rescue operation in the local government, during which the assailants, on sighting the responding unit, abducted 2 police operatives, the driver of a second vehicle, and took to their heels. Our local government is said to be one of the red flag zones because of the activities of gunmen and outlawed IPOB agitators in the area. Earlier this year, there were reported killings in the area, resulting in the arrest of the gunmen. We'll get you some more insight into the security situation in Southeastern, particularly what should be done in the light of this one. But ahead of the inauguration ceremony, the Nigerian Immigration Service in Bauchi State has arrested 20 irregular migrants, mostly from Cameroon and Niger, and 35 Nigerians who are believed to be the accomplices during a raid on brothels in Bauchi while parading the migrants. The controller of immigration in the state, Abdullahi Adamu, explains that the raid was necessitated due to reports of threats ahead of the May 29 inauguration. He claims that some of those arrested are suspected of harboring criminals, and the arrest may provide useful information to the service. He also mentioned that the migrants will face deportation after being profiled. And now to our earlier story on the security situation in the Southeast after that shocking attack on a U.S. consulate convoy. We're joined by Mr. Kingsley Uzoma to shed some light on this. He's a security consultant, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us on the program, Mr. Uzoma. I mean, this attack just came out of nowhere for a lot of people, shocking people, especially because there's been some quiet and peace, particularly in that area, compared to what we had seen in the past. And I wonder for you, how did you receive that attack?
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. The attack is quite shocking because I'm aware of the frantic effort being put in place by the Anambra State government. If you could recall that last week they recorded significant success in neutralizing these outlawed bandits and all that. But again, when you check Ogbaru, the area where this attack took place yesterday, you would agree with me that that is the stronghold of these criminal elements, and the security agencies need to do after mapping. But given the fact that the local government, Ogbaru, is also closer to Ihiala and more closer to Imo State, where you also have the heat of this incident, I expected more cooperation and collaboration between the security agencies command in Anambra State and that of Imo State to enhance the seamless operation that can help in curbing the forex and the hill to arrest the situation.
I mean, this is also some diplomatic situation on our hands. Yeah, there's said to be some sort of collaboration now to ensure that at least justice is served and all that. But you mentioned that the two states could have maybe collaborated, Anambra and Imo, and this is something we've heard a lot, different, solutions to this challenge. And is it that we're not dealing with the root cause of this? We're maybe just dealing with the branches. What is the root cause? Maybe that can also help government to focus on what is priority.
Okay, beyond the kinetics approach, there is the political and social justice angle to the problems. Okay, so the government needs to, because at times when I try to analyze issues that has to do with the Southeast, especially Imo State and Anambra that shares a border, we might ask the question, the governors of these states, have they met? How regular do they meet to discuss security situations? And ever since maybe we now have another zonal command in the Southeast, you have Imo being another in Zone 9, while Anambra is on the one in Zone 13. How do these zonal commands cooperate to make sure that these two states, these areas are safe? Who and who is profiling these individuals? Because at times some of these criminal elements are also a byproduct of political thugs, or you have them as motopark thugs, and what they do. So during the election, like you recall, during the election, the area was very calm. Okay, that gives you the political angle of it. So some of these people are being used behind the scene and men of the underlaw. But coming to attack maybe agencies of the US, and you will agree that to some extent, in one way of looking at it, it could be maybe leak of information, or it could also be that suddenly they ran into them. But that also helps with the moral, because when you chase them from Anambra territory, they hibernate within the area's jurisdiction of Imo State. But if you have more collaboration between these two states, it will be much more easier to fish them out. And when you have this kind of problem going on, the governors of these two states, even though the Southeast region, should be meeting more often. But I doubt if these two governors, the one of Anambra and Imo, have met on security situation. I stand to be corrected if these two executive governors have met on matters that affect security between the borders of the two states.
You know, there's also a very important conversation, perhaps underlying this, is the political undertone to this. I mean, those two governors belong to two different political parties. Maybe that should not come into play when it comes to security, but I mean, these issues are there. And not to forget the challenge with Ebubagu, the court's pronouncement on all of that. So if you could just make a statement finally on the kind of collaboration you expect them to have, especially because a new administration is coming and it's expected that whatever is happening at that level will be tabled at the federal government level. What kind of collaboration are you looking at?
Okay, I use this opportunity. The two states and the region precisely need to have a Southeast Security Summit to review problems that are peculiar to the geopolitical zone. The governors, the security agencies need to be, for crying out loud, the 5 eastern states by landmarks, they are less than approximately the size of Benue State, if not Kogi. So it's very insignificant for the security agencies not to take charge of security situations in the region, but they need the political will, the support of the government, the different layers of the security agencies, the police being the lead internal security and the military, need to collaborate effectively to make sure that they enhance security in the region.
I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Kingsley Uzoma, security consultant, for your thoughts on that very important topic on the program to this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, speaking of the Southeast, the governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, is calling on leaders in that region to embrace national politics, as that is the only way dividends of democracy will be felt by the citizens of the region. Well, he was a guest earlier on our Sunrise program. You can catch that interview on YouTube, where he said that the Southeast has suffered so much marginalization in the past, and the best way for the region to catch up is to accept the APC. Well, that's the program for this afternoon. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikilu. Goodbye.